Alright lads, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be taking a look at everyone's favourite Swedish premium, the CV90 Now recently, this tank has got an overhaul. Like the Italian M60 premium that probably some of you veterans out there will know about, this tank was pretty ahistorical. Just like the Italian M60, the real life version of the CV90 did not have a gun stabiliser, as well as a few other things, making it unrealistically portrayed. Now, as Gaijin prides itself on having accurately modelled vehicles, this was pretty unacceptable. Hence, the replacement tank that we have here. This vehicle basically features a new turret, with a 5-second autoloader, and a new and improved main ammunition type. Anyway, the CV90 is a rank 6 battle rating 9.3 light tank located in the Swedish tech tree. You can lock it on the Gaijin store for the cost of $60. You get the tank, 15 days of premium time, and 2,000 golden eagles in the bundle. To put the vehicle in your lineup, it will cost you 10,000 silver lions, and for the expert in ace qualifications, it's 1,210,000 silver lions for the expert qualification, and 2,100 golden eagles for the ace qualification. Well lads, with the recent changes to the CV90 is it now better value for money than an IKEA flat pack chair? Well, with its high resolution thermal imaging, high top speed, and high penetration round, this tank certainly does now stand out amongst the rank 6 premium vehicles. But is it worth your $60? And is the Swedish top tier lineup even worth grinding out? Well, if you'd like to know more about that and the answers to those questions, stick around for the rest of the video lads. Alright lads, welcome back. Starting as always, the manoeuvrability. Well, the CV90 is powered by an engine producing 670 horsepower. This is in realistic battles. Combined with its weight of 25 tons, it gives the tank a very impressive power to weight ratio of 26.8 horsepower per ton. While this power to weight figure isn't extraordinarily high, it's certainly better than your average Volvo. It also has a pretty good top speed as well, being able to reach a top speed of 71 km/h going forwards, and 41 km/h in reverse. And combined with that high power to weight ratio, you can accelerate to those top speeds fairly quickly, allowing you to get in and out of the fight before your meatballs have gone cold. But mobility is only one of the 3 important factors of tank combat. So what about the survivability and the armour protection? Well, if we take a look at this cross section, we can see that we have a driver up front, located next to the engine, as well as a gunner and commander located in the turret. Our autoloader bustle is located at the rear of the turret, and below that in the hull is the rest of our ammunition. The mathematical geniuses among you will have noticed that we only have 3 crew members, meaning that if we lose 2 crew members, the vehicle will be instantly destroyed. This means if you get shot in the turret, there's a good chance of that you'll be killed in a single shot because 2 out of the 3 crew members are there. But alternatively, it means if you get shot in the engine compartment, there's a good chance that you'll survive the first hit, because it's only your driver that should be killed. This of course only really refers to APFSDS and other kinetic energy projectiles. Because the CV90 is a light tank, it will pretty much be crippled by any sort of high explosive round, due to the recent overpressure changes. So in general, the survivability of the CV90 is pretty poor, and as we'll see in the armour section shortly, they basically use this thing using scraps left over from IKEA's furniture. I should probably use this point of the video to apologise to any Swedish viewers. Basically everybody outside of Sweden just views Sweden as IKEA, PewDiePie and meatballs. Anyway, before we start covering the armour itself, I probably should point out that the thickest part of the armour on this vehicle is the gun barrel, just to give you a quick taster of what's to come. Again, this tank is basically built out of OSB. Anyway, the lower frontal plate of this tank is only around 28mm thick. At least it provides that in effective thickness. The upper frontal plate is a little bit better. This is mainly due to your engine providing a little bit more better protection, but even then it's still only 64mm thick. Basically, a 2.2 air rifle could penetrate this thing. Anyway, somehow the turret is even worse, with the main gun mantler only being around 11mm thick. While this armour protection is abysmal, and it does leave you incredibly vulnerable to artillery, high explosive rounds in general, and close air support, it isn't really a problem at top tier if you play it in a sensible manner. You shouldn't really be trying to brawl with this CV90, it's obviously not a up close and personal vehicle. You should be playing it more as a following behind your friendlies and sniping, that sort of role. If you're trying to play this thing like an IS-7, then the fault's with you, not with the tank. So while the survivability isn't the best, it can be overcome with changes in playstyle, and obviously not just holding W and expecting to get a nuke. So with 2 out of the 3 main factors of tank performance done, let's cover the final one, the firepower. And just like the previous CV90-105, and pretty much all of the battle rating 9.0 to 9.3 vehicles in the NATO teams, and yes, Sweden is joining NATO now, so don't type that in the comment like last video. Anyway, the tank is armed with a 105mm L50 cannon. You can carry 40 rounds in total, with a 10-stage first ammo rack. These 10 rounds are stored in the bustle of the turret, which, similar to the Abrams and the Leopard 2A5, does make it quite vulnerable, but to be honest, your armor is so weak that it doesn't really make a difference if they aim for your turret, you're going to die anyway. Due to the CV90's 5-second autoloader, you have a fire rate of 12 rounds per minute, which is good. And considering most 105mm guns reload every 6.7 seconds with a normal loader, you do have quite a significant firepower advantage, at least when it comes to rate of fire. This rate of fire, combined with the 2nd generation thermal imaging for the gunner sight, does make you particularly lethal on the battlefield. But what about our main ammunition? Well, I'm happy to say that there have been improvements here as well. The old CV90 only had DM23, which did used to be good several years ago, but was recently found to be a little bit lacking. Anyway, if we cover the ammunition with this vehicle, our stock round is the M1061 heater fast round. It travels at 1174 meters per second and can penetrate 400mm of armor. Not a bad heater fast round, but you don't really want to be using this, pretty much unless you're some sort of sadist, I guess. We then also have the M39-3A2. This is a HESH round or high explosive squash head. It travels much slower, but penetrates 127mm of armor. This is your equivalent of a high explosive round on this vehicle, and while it can be used to good effect against the lighter vehicles in game, I'd say that the heater fast round or your stock round is better at this. We then have the tried and tested M41-6 smoke shell, which is pretty useless in my opinion. After extensive research and many book reading sessions, I've determined that this smoke shell creates smoke, which may have some tactical use on the battlefield, but again is largely a gimmick. We then come on to the good stuff, and we do actually still have the DM23 round. This travels very fast at 1455 meters per second, and at a range of 500 meters, can penetrate a respectable 330mm of armor. However, it is worth noting the DM23 does create a medium amount of spalling. This amount of spalling, combined with the penetration, is the main difference between the DM23 and our final round, the DM33. The DM33 travels at the exact same speed, but at a range of 500 meters, can penetrate 398mm of armor, a 68mm increase. But most importantly, is it increasing spalling. If you look at the difference between the DM23 and the DM33 stat cards, you'll see that the armor thickness changes. This is Gaijin's way of demonstrating the spalling rate of the round. The DM33 creates more spalling, and therefore more internal damage. This leads to more one-shot kills, and more reliable kills as well. This is why many of the early APF-SDS rounds, and the small caliber APF-SDS rounds, don't really do much damage when they penetrate, because they just don't create enough spalling. In many ways, the addition of the DM33 is one of the main reasons that the CV90-105 is now one of the contenders for being the best Rank 6 premium in the game. The upper frontal plate of the T72AV terms is almost a lol pen with this round, and at battle rating 9.3, there are very few things that you can't penetrate. But enough of Reddit mode, let's answer the important questions. Does the CV90-105 have a good lineup? Well, at 9.3, not really. We have the Saab 105 for CAS, the Leopard 1A5, the new premium, the Veek 40, Stridsvorden 103C, Stridsvorden 105, as well as the 9040B. This lineup is pretty good, don't get me wrong, but it's certainly not the most dominant, and at battle rating 9.3, it's fairly weak compared to most of the other nations' 9.7 or 10.0 lineups. You can voluntarily up tier this thing to 10.0 alongside the Swedish Leopard 2A4 and have a pretty good time, but at the vehicle's own battle rating of 9.3, it's got a pretty weak lineup in my opinion, so I'd give it a 2 out of 5. Is this tank new player friendly? Well, it's fast with a hard-hitting gun, with good ammunition, and high-resolution thermals, so that certainly is going for it. But it's also very lightly armoured, and does require a little bit of skill to know when to come out and shoot, and when to scoot. So because of this, I'll give it a 3 out of 5. Is the tank good value for money? Well, compared to most of the other premium rank 6 vehicles, where this tank is let down is not in its performance itself, but more in its lineup. Once again, the 9.3 lineup is pretty bad. The German 10.0 lineup with the Panzer II-A4 is very good at battle rating 10.0, and the same for the T-72 AV terms and 9.7 in the Soviet tech tree. Lots of very good vehicles to back it up. You just don't really have that with this vehicle. And while I can't really fault the performance of the CV90 itself, the surrounding Swedish vehicles certainly do let it down. So I'd give it a 3 out of 5. Is the CV90 in the current meta? Well, it's fast with a hard-hitting gun, and it gets kills very easily. So I'd say yes. 4 out of 5. Is the tank cool? Well, with the new look of the tank, getting rid of that disgusting French turret, and replacing it with a good old-fashioned Swedish one, I'd say that tank does look pretty cool. It's got nice square lines now, instead of that French one that was just different angles everywhere. The French once again trying too hard to be different and making something shit. But enough French bashing. I'd say that the tank is pretty cool. I do think it's pretty good to look at. It's got some really nice camouflages. You can put decorators on the thing to make it... You can basically put bushes in front of the turret and make it completely turretless. But anyway, I'd give it a 4 out of 5. Anyway lads, thank you very much for watching this video. I do think that the CV90 is much better now with the recent changes. It looks better, it feels better to play, and with that DM33 around, it performs much better as well. Well, I would never really recommend paying $60 for a premium tank. I'd say that if you are serious about grinding out the Swedish tech tree, then the CV90 is a good pick. The old CV90 used to be limited, mainly due to the fact that the DM23 wasn't really that good, and didn't really allow it to be up-tiered that successfully. The DM33 of this tank does make it pretty effective at knocking out even 10.7 vehicles. So if you're looking for a Swedish premium grinder that does just as well in a down tier as it does in an up tier, then the CV90 is the tank for you. Anyway lads, if you enjoyed this video, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, and be sure to leave a comment down below with what vehicle you guys would like to see reviewed next. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to the channel membership supporters, Wolfie Fly, Joseph Metcalf, Tomster013, Just Someone, Dr. Bob, Deboa LX, Tans, William Tessier, and Lola Alfonsi. Thank you very much for supporting the channel lads, and I'll see you in the next review.